Rina Shamaeva, and this presentation is part of our set of sourcing trainings. I would love you to please use the questions panel to interact with me because it will make the session more interesting for everyone. Please say hello to me in the questions panel and continue using it throughout the session. I will remind you at the end that your materials will arrive on our site a few hours after the session. And you also have a month of asking questions. So how do you learn to run efficient prompts? How do you learn to deal with AI? When your new IKEA gadget arrives, it comes with instructions. You follow the instructions and you assemble it. Software tends to have documentation more and more that doesn't describe it in its full capacity. And ChatGPT goes further. Even its creators know only so much about ChatGPT. So the main thing about sensing its nature, finding out what to expect from it, is practicing. Another thing is it shouldn't own the playfield. You teach it using examples, backgrounds, and correcting the dialogue. There is a process similar to software engineering when you are debugging your prompt, adding things to it to make your output better and better. You can learn from obviously from peers and social media, but anybody says anything, question that. This is such a fastly expanding area that things shift, and even the smartest people can be mistaken, or things change overnight. And you can also ask AI to teach you how to use AI. Tried ChatGPT yesterday, found it to be good on introduction level issues. Since I work as an industry-specific recruiter, need details, deeper dives. Is there a way to do that with ChatGPT? So ChatGPT, you can see it as a character. This character is stubborn. It knows a lot, but if you ask only so much, it will give you very uninteresting answer. If you just ask it to write an email to a candidate, it will write a long, watery, uninteresting thing. So you need to push on it, to press on it, to give you that gold that's hidden underneath. It's like digging gold. You might find some gold dust on the surface, but you need to push to find the real stuff. I hope I'm making sense. Hallucinations. So AI tools, as we know, all do the same thing. They have a giant amount of text, and based on that, they predict the next word. It has nothing to do with reality. It has nothing to do with the truth. So hallucinations are quite common. You probably wouldn't find ChatGPT hallucinating if you ask it about the history of ancient Greece or how languages, are similar, different stuff. That's classic. But if you're asking about something about current information, it may start hallucinating. Sometimes you can push on it to work better, but you always need to verify what it's doing. So here I asked you, asked it about mid-sized companies. I'm not sure these are all mid-sized at all. And then I told it to create a table. So ChatGPT itself cannot do a whole lot in terms of any graphics or outputs, but it can do tables pretty well, which you can, of course, export after that. If you look at these profile URLs and these emails, uh, just by glancing through, you will see that this is likely a lie, and it indeed is. Uh, Bing, as any AI, it also hallucinates. I caught Bing to telling me to use graph search on Facebook. Now, graph search was discontinued in 2013. I'm telling it the graph search is gone. I'm sorry to hear that. Then they're telling me it was discontinued in 2019. Then it's telling me that Facebook has operators such as site in URL in title. It's complete nonsense. It does not hallucinate that bad anymore, but it's an example of uh, things that AIs can come up with. Now, AI hallucinations can help us, and these are links to a few posts talking about it. We can learn about AI itself uh, in the ways it responds. If it hallucinates to a certain input I gave it, it's a lesson. I will try to modify my input so that I push it to work harder. Generate art is a great thing. I'm very much into creating AI images with a tool called Midjourney, and it's just fascinating what it can do. And then, because AI is a black box, uh, seeing it hallucinate or respond in certain ways helps us to learn what's going on inside in an indirect manner. LinkedIn Recruiter AI, LinkedIn, not just with Recruiter, is starting to get on the AI path. In fact, regarding emails, they've been on this project of doing artificial intelligence on emails for a couple of years now. They're coming up with announcements. They don't announce everything, so you will see some things AI like pop up on your timeline. Today there was an announcement of new AI functions in Sales Navigator. It sounded very unclear to me what they're exactly doing, but it's also something that where LinkedIn is going. Now, email writing is useful in the sense that LinkedIn now allows you to use many more fields for its customization, not just a name. Recommended matches are a question mark, and emails themselves could be better. So here is an automatically composed email to a potential candidate in LinkedIn Recruiter that I can customize using more fields than I used to. But if you look at the email itself, uh, it's kind of not very convincing. So I'll probably have to rewrite it. I may ask ChatGPT to help me rewrite it. I got profile edit suggestions. My about section is quite long because I'm doing a bunch of things. It has shrunk the about section into a shorter piece. Uh, I didn't go for it, but if I wanted a short bio, it probably would work. Profile skill suggestions is also AI. So it's not only LinkedIn Recruiter. We are and will be getting some suggestions on optimizing our profiles and our describing of ourselves. Now, a genius part of ChatGPT is advanced data analysis. So if I go to ChatGPT, and you have to have a paid account. Here is the advanced data analysis. I press on it, and now it's active, and I can interact with it. What it does is it does a brilliant job working with sets of data, tables of data, such as Excel files. You cannot upload anything to GPT, but here you can upload files for processing, typically Excel. It can clean up your data. It can make sense of several files that you input. Then you can download results. And in this example, on the screenshot on the right, you see its summary on the profiles I gave it. So to make it more concrete, here is what I would do with it. I go to LinkedIn Recruiter. Suppose I have a project I'm interested in, what it's about. Okay, so here is Manager Regional Sales, a real job. What I can do here is I can start exporting results. Save to CSV. Next. Save to CSV, and so forth. Now I have several files, CSV files, with these candidates. What I can do next is I can upload them here, and then I can start investigating those profiles elsewhere. For example, with Sales QL that would populate them with contact data, Seek Out, the same thing. Then you can give the advanced data analysis. I like the code interpreter name better. If you give it the resulting files, it will start making sense of it, and we can do a demo later. Let me go through the slides. For now, it's interestingly, it also tells you what it is doing. It acts like a person. It says, okay, now I'm seeing these column names similar, so I'm going to pay attention to that. Oops, I made a mistake. Let me redo that. So it's kind of funny. It creates from several files about the same people. For example, you have a list exported from LinkedIn Recruiter, a list exported from Sales QL or Seek Out. You can give, or Contact Out. You can give it all these lists, and it will merge them, making one record per each potential candidate. And it can also give you summaries that can be useful in your perceiving what this set of records is about, what these candidates are about. You can be speaking with others, hiring manager, for example, giving them some picture of what comes up out of those searches. So it's a brilliant thing. And David Galley, my partner, is excellent with tables, Excel, Google Sheets, but I don't really enjoy that part, and I'm happy to delegate all this merging. Okay. Plugins. Plugins are endless, and there are lists of plugins that people have assembled, so feel free to browse there. On my part, I look for plugins based on keywords on the site itself, and then try using some that appeal to me or seem to be promising in resolving a problem or automating something. So folks, as I go, please feel free to ask questions, and at any point I can do a demo, okay? So, Scraper plugin. While GPT cannot access the web, some plugins can. That includes the Scraper plugin. It cannot compete with commercial scrapers. It's not as advanced, but it does access the web. So if you have a page or some simple pages, it can do stuff, extracting the information from there. Here's an example. Extract all the hyperlinks from this page. It goes to the page, unlike many other AIs, and does scrape it correctly. Scraper plugin executed a search for me on Google. So site linkedin.com/in looks for LinkedIn profiles. I wanted the address to be on the profile, and I wanted it to be a VP of recruiting, and it gave me URLs from the search results. So one thing you could do, of course, is go to Google and run the search and then try to scrape results from your search page using a tool, and this does it for you without the need of going anywhere. ChatGPT is stubborn in several ways, stubborn, quote unquote. One is it won't give you an excellent output unless you convince it to improve it. Another thing is that when you send those parts of it, the plugins, to dig out something on the web, quite often it will tell you it cannot. Now, or that it's against policy, that it's invading somebody's privacy rights. Now, this page is there with emails is there. So, you know the expression softly, softly catch a monkey. If you start speaking with it gradually. So when I got this answer, I went to start a new chat and asked it to scrape the names. Then I asked it to put the names in a table. Then I told it to populate the table with an email column, which it did. So if it refuses to do anything, don't give up instantly. However, some things cannot be done. I finished the last presentation with this comparison chart that may save you some efforts. You may not use some tools in this chat, but here are the major tools. ChatGPT, Bing Chart, Bard. It gives you links. It gives you the company that does that. Now, ChatGPT, Bing Chart, and Bard are the names for the user interface that goes to some AI. And then there is an underlying mechanism. So ChatGPT and Bing Chat both have ChatGPT mechanism. Bard, so it's good to make a distinction. These are interesting. Take a look at them. I will speak about some, but if you have only so much time, I would say that these three are the main ones. And what's important for us as sourcers is this: can they access the web? Because they, like Google, you search for something on Google with not so perfect search string, Google will always give you some results. So will ChatGPT. It may not tell you that it's not suited to do the job. It may just give you an output that is wrong. For that reason, it's important to know what they really can and cannot do. For example, can they visit URLs? They will tell you what it is on those pages, but they will hallucinate if they cannot, and so forth. So this table is useful. YouTube summaries. Out of all the tools I have seen, the 85 Chrome extension stands out with its quality. It is the same thing as YouTube summaries that is included in ChatGPT for free. I gave it a talk that Glenn Cathy gave at a conference, and here is the key insights. It even added emojis. For longer than 1 hour videos, you can use the extension and pay some money for that. That's not huge. So if you are bombarded with information and have a stack of YouTube videos to watch, as some of us do, Doing this will definitely save you time. You will see ahead of time what is it that's discussed. In general, summaries is a strong point for AI tools. Summaries of pages and summaries of something as complex as a video. Clay was heavily promoted. You can connect your accounts here and kind of uh, act with the social web from one point. However, in our tests, I don't think it's ready for prime time, but I wanted to mention it. Prompt libraries, sharing prompts, deriving prompts, creating prompts, uh, uh, has become extremely popular. There are new jobs that are called prompter, and there are prompts libraries. You can go to a prompt library, search by keywords, and you will be discovering, for example, prompts that help you generate useful things for recruiting. So you can search, for example, job ad, how to write a good job ad. You can search for prompts. However, I'm not sure that spending a whole lot of time browsing through prompts created by other people is that useful. Uh, I think that your best bet is to learning to navigate AI yourself. You can also ask AI to generate prompts for AI. See what I did here? I said create a list of prompts useful for talent sources and recruiters. Here you go. These are your use cases uh, 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 that you can turn around and ask ChatGPT using each of these templates, and it will give you information, texts, uh, content to populate whatever you're writing. Emails, website, job description, um, summary of a candidate, so forth. So what's behind ChatGPT is OpenAI's API. API is Application Programming Interface. It's something that people who write code can use, and all these plugins that you've seen and tons of applications out there already are using that API. In the case of ChatGPT, you can experiment with it yourself. For that, you go to this link. You need to have an account. And while here, this is the UI for OpenAI API, and on ChatGPT, we have AUI for the same GPT. It has different parameters here. The most interesting parameter to me that ChatGPT doesn't tell you anything about is temperature. So temperature is the degree of randomness. If you want it to be precise, it needs to be 0. If you want it to be creative, 1. It's similar to what Bing is offering. Uh, uh, but I don't know if it's the same thing. Nobody tells us. So ChatGPT is very good at writing poems. So I asked it to write a poem Byron style. In another case, I asked it to rewrite the job description as a poem Byron style. It's something that I can try to send to candidates and see if the uniqueness of this approach will trigger their response. You do pay for using this, but the amount of money is very, very small. You can see your statistics, and even if you actively work with it, it will likely be pennies. There is a notion of an open AI API key. When you are working with OpenAI through that interface, and when you're working with applications that go to the code through API, you might want to need to get a key. It's just something that identifies that you have access, so you copy it and paste where applications are asking you, and it doesn't it's free. So looking again at this list about what each AI tool can do, uh, uh, it helps us to set our expectations. So Bard can run a Google search. It's fine, but it wouldn't go to the pages and read them. The information it gets here, it gets only from the page's title and URL. LinkedIn profiles have names, titles, and companies and visible locations. Now, another question is, did it hallucinate here? Some of these people do exist and are registered nurses, but John Doe and Jane Doe at the beginning of the list make me wonder, and indeed, they're not real people. So it can access web, cannot read the pages, and it might hallucinate unless you push it to do a really good job, and maybe even then. Folks, any questions, please use the questions panel to comment uh, uh, or ask questions or tell me how much you have used. I would like this to be more interactive. A less popular site is called Coiled Chat. It uses GPT behind it. So we can have sites that use the same AI mechanism behind that, but the site would provide us with different functionality. This is the same GPT, but it works in some ways better than ChatGPT user interface. So you can set it to use real-time data. It will run searches for you on search engines, grab the result, reproduce the URL, and it does not hallucinate that much. When I'm saying does not hallucinate that much, it sounds qualitative, but it's the language we have to use because it's really not an option to challenge, to measure that. Um, but it's good to know what to expect of each AI tool. They all have their sort of character. Uh, some hallucinate more than others, some are more brief than others, and it's good to have your expectations on that. So here is an example. SERP is a command that tells it to run a search. We are using advanced search operators on Google, and then present the results as a table with header, URL, title, and snippet. So this tool does a fantastic job compared, for example, to Bard that was inventing Jane Doe and John Doe. I'll talk you through some tools that also exist around and are built on top of this API. Door Genius is sort of a Boolean builder. If you are proficient in running searches on the web through Google, you really don't need it. But if you want something quick, it will give you some examples on how to run searches. It goes beyond LinkedIn on any site. The word dork is the outside of recruiting name for advanced Google searches. It's something that it's the same as what we called Boolean strings or Boolean search strings. Engage AI is a tool that works over LinkedIn. Of course, you need to be careful to not let it run unsupervised because who knows what it will decide to say. But generally, it can make you be much more present on LinkedIn. Our presence and our uh, content being relevant to what we're doing, to what we're looking for, to industries we work in, the candidates that we want to attract, being present online is absolutely a good thing. You can use Engage AI, and here is an example uh, of this person answering, commenting on this post uh, in some manner that makes sense, and you can even tell it about the tone, which tone to use. People GPT is a tool that seems to be, uh, from what they say, solving that problem of sourcing for us, but it's definitely not there. They have a database, which is, for starters, only a subset of US LinkedIn profiles. I'm not sure you'll find yourselves there. The database is somewhat outdated, which would be the case with any database collected from the web. Any tool that scrapes LinkedIn, collects that data, will have that data be outdated in no time. On the other hand, it has a pleasant prompt-based search, and it does pull up some profiles. Without knowing what profiles are there and how up to date they are, I have a question about that, but it's a tool that uh, uh, probably looks like what we're going to get better working in some time from now. ChatGPT for Google Sheets and Docs is very well investigated, and it's basically a framework to work with your outputs, such as emails to candidates. You can generate text, what to write to them. You can change the tone, fix grammar, summarize, translate. So you can tell it to create a piece of writing that would contain certain parts and then populate the table, and it will go and massively create those outgoing emails that are personalized for a number of people. Um, when we're speaking with ChatGPT, we went through this. You can tell ChatGPT to answer your questions as an expert researcher, as somebody who is familiar with, I don't know, manufacturing of something, get knowledge on that. ChatGPT for Google Docs also has this personalization, which you can select from drop down, and it will change it to voice and will speak not as a HR consultant, but as a nutritionist or anyone else you want it to. Hugging Face is not a site I invite you to go to investigate because it has so much. It has tens of thousands of free online applications. But some of those applications are useful and in our practice. In general, you can find anything and everything. It is about text generation for sure, as the original AI, and then multimedia comes in. You can generate videos, transcribe, and you can do quite a bit with text as well. I'll give you just a couple of examples on what you might find there. Bark is generates text-based high-quality audio. You can read text by existing tools, but Bark does it better and more skillful. In fact, there are tools that would read text in your voice if you teach them. This is not a sourcing, but a fun application. Just to give you an idea on what it might contain, you give it 2 pictures and it generates pictures on the way from this to this one, also AI. Um, this little application Quillbot is good at summarizing, and what I like here is this slider. There are tons of summary applications uh, now, including some plugins in ChatGPT, but this really is flexible in terms of giving you a summary. And this, in this case, I was asking it to summarize an article by Glenn Cathy on LinkedIn. Perplexity is a pretty outstanding player. Maybe it's not as visible as Bing, ChatGPT, and Bard, but it has its advantages. It's fast. Uh, it will give you good research answers, but it is also likely to hallucinate. So give it a try. But any outputs from any of the AI need to be verified. So here is what I asked Perplexity. Uh, I asked it to create a list of profiles of registered nurses in Texas from LinkedIn. Gave me some names. Now, things like this, when you ask AI, absolutely needs to be verified. So some of them, the question was obviously too open-ended because there are a lot of registered nurses, even on LinkedIn, where they don't tend to be. Some answers were right, some were invented. Now I am giving it a list of URLs and asking to go to each URL and figure out what these people do. Once again, you need to verify what it's doing. But if things like that start working reliably, imagine how much time it will be saving all of us. ChatSonic is a prompt library that's not just prompt library, it has prompt generation and image generation. It's a place to investigate AI, but in terms of prompt generation, I imagine if you master ChatGPT itself, it might be stronger. And image generation, the absolute winner is Midjourney, and then there are a couple more major tools that do that. And these images are could be better. But if you're writing something quick, it can serve you. Now, Facebook also is doing something in major in AI. It has Llama, which is a language model, very large, and you can try it using this link. Now, I would not recommend that you use Llama in this way in practice. Why? Because it hallucinates and it has no web access. The advantage of this model is if you have people who build software, you can work with this model with very large volumes of your data. So it's not something to ask about a list of things to enter into LinkedIn. It is something for companies that have large volumes of data to digest that. Again, this Vardin is also less known things, less known tool. It allows task automation with AI. It is pretty smart. If you ask it to get data from this page, it will suggest the ways to scrape it. And it can help you to scrape the pages as well. So for example, you're looking at an association page in your industry with a list of members with their contact information. This tool, you can tell it to go to the page and it will take care of scraping the whole thing into Excel. To access it, download this extension. Also, scraping LinkedIn is a challenge. Our favorite light, powerful scraper, instant data scraper won't work there. And I don't know a good scraper to work, but this tool does allow to go to a search that you've done and collect profiles from there, which will allow you to have these profiles in a table which you can parse, filter before you continue. The only tool I know that does that without AI, though, is SalesQL that does collect information from real profiles. So here's how you go. You tell it what to do, exactly how many. It's called playbook, the script that has created at your request and will be executing. And here are the results. These are correct results. It's not any hallucination. It did go to the profiles and collected results in a table. Almost all 1,000 of them. Okay. More use cases. Facebook group members. So on Facebook, it's very hard to search. Since the graph search is gone, it's not really something to do. There are several filters. You can search for location, a job title, but it shows you very few people and it's not convenient. Groups, however, professional groups are flourishing on Facebook. So if somebody is a member of a group of people who, with the name dedicated to a particular technology or profession, taking a look at the group members is a good thing. What can you do with it? You will get some information about these people. Because they are from this group, you already know something about that. And then you can search for a long or of their names on LinkedIn, finding out more about them. Google search results, custom scraping, and it can also enrich a list of profiles in Google Sheets. Okay, text to image is partially applicable to our work, but generally not a whole lot. Generating images for your site to include in your email, to include in your blog is a good thing. Images and videos, which we're not creating yet a whole lot with AI, is a thing that attracts candidates. People like visual things. These are the current tools. I'm listing only 3, but there are multiple. Midjourney is the top player, and I'm really well familiar with Midjourney and have generated a lot of images with that, more like a hobby. It's just fascinating. You can tell it what style, what to draw, but if you want a very particular thing, it has too much fantasy, and it's hard to create simple images. Stable Diffusion has more customization, but higher learning curve, and DALL-E is now freely available from Bing and is not bad. You tell it to draw something, it would. And each of them have their characters. So I'm happy to talk with you as much as you want about image creation because I am into this stuff. It's also interesting that it's no longer just text to image. So ChatGPT is text to text. You give it text, it outputs text. Maybe it will draw a simple table. Here, you tell it what you want to draw. but you can also give it other images as input. So in the end, we don't even have the language to describe that prompt. It's not a text prompt. It's a mixed thing, images and text, and you can iterate on top what you got. And I don't know if that kind of language would be created so that people can repeat the process. The opposite thing, image to text. We know that Google, Bing can search by image, and they would give us some text. Google would give us some text on what it thinks about the image. If you upload an image of a famous person, Google would recognize it, but it's very limited. So image to text software is not very well developed yet. It's coming up. It's a very interesting thing. Part of it, called OCR, has been solved a while ago. If an image has something written on it, OCR tools will recognize you and will give you that text. Interestingly, for example, Facebook has a built-in OCR. If you upload something with the writing, such as I'm hiring, I'm looking for a job, or even a license plate from a car, you will be able to later find that image by typing that in. But that's very partial case. Now, if we have an image, there are only few systems at this point that can describe it. Why would you want to do that? One thing to do is when you want to draw something similar, maybe changing the style. We would be interested in what AI has to say about uploading images of people, especially AI that has access to the web, but Bard and Bing, both of which can generate images, do not deal with people yet. Bing, you cannot even identify Albert Einstein. As soon as it sees a person, it removes the image and tells you that it doesn't deal with that. Bard tells you that it does not identify people yet. It's a very interesting area. I'll just quickly show you a few examples. So I'm giving this image to Bard, telling it to describe. This is image to text. Bard is pretty wordy, so it wrote a long description. I uploaded to the drawing tool Midjourney and got this. Bing gave it the same image. Bing usually gives you very realistic short description. The results are this. And then Midjourney itself, the drawing program, has a describe command. And its describe command reflects that it can fantasize. I told it to describe this image. It gave me text. I put the text back into Midjourney, and these images only vaguely remind us of this, but in many cases, it might be something to apply. Okay. Another thing to say is that these hallucinations that AI tools may be coming up with are tricky to detect unless you have access to this table or unless you know. And one particular type of hallucination is the following. You give it a URL and it tells you what's in there, which makes you very happy. However, all that some of them are doing is they are reading the URL. They're not accessing the page. And it did tell us that it can't visit links. However, from artificial intelligence, it decided that it should have a robot. Okay. So if you're giving a tool that does not read the web, if you're giving it a URL, that has a lot of words, it can imagine something that will look realistic. And it's something to check. Okay. So I use ChatGPT to create mid-journey prompts and draw these images. It's a lot of fun. And I use some of my images for our website, my blog, um, our newsletter. So it is useful in practice. I am going towards the end of my slides. We have about 10 minutes left, and I would love to show you some demos. For that, I want you guys to ask questions and tell me what you want to see on the screen. We can try to do some hands-on sourcing using ChatGPT's help. So resources. I run a group on LinkedIn that seems to be pretty active on ChatGPT and recruiting. On Facebook, our group skyrocketed at the beginning. I would love it to be revived, but right now, apart from sharing links, it's kind of quiet. I read this newsletter, Synthedia, and I like the information they put together. Then Hung Lee, many of you may know this name, is running recruiting brain food community in several ways. He writes a newsletter, he runs a Facebook group, and he also runs meetings on air every Friday almost. He has been addressing the question of AI quite a bit. Okay? So, and I will show you a demo, yes. So this is our training. This is my blog. This is newsletter. This is our company newsletter that I recommend you take a look at. AI is involved in its creation, and this is my mid-journey art. Okay, so this is the last slide. Return to the course on our site. In a few hours, you will find the recording and slides. And use the support form to submit your questions and feedback, and take advantage of that. Now, I am asked to show you steps for sourcing using ChatGPT. So one thing to ask ChatGPT is lists. So give me some job description, title, anything to work with, or I can come up with something myself. So one thing, for example, what industry, for example, you want to talk about? For other folks, please suggest things in the questions panel, and we'll run a demo. Anybody tell me what we want to be looking for here? Sourcing for whom? Okay, so here is an example of sourcing for computer scientists who graduated from top computer schools. So I would say list top CS schools in the US. Names only. Okay, good stuff. Now I'm stopping it. I want a little more. Create a table. First column. University name. Second location. Third URL. What else do we want? Fourth, approximate number of CS students. Let's see how it does. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing some research, okay? That will help me. Now I can copy what it's doing and I will create a table. No, that didn't work. Can we copy this? Copy code. Let's see if Google Docs would do better. New Google Sheets. Well, I'll have to deal with it. It did give me some numbers, which is interesting. So suppose I had this long list. What I want now is to run this list using an OR search. And I think I won't work with this because it has more information. I can take advantage of it later. But I can do this. I can use these names of schools, and I'm only working with a small subset. I can use these names to create an OR strings for LinkedIn. I can use a Boolean builder, or I can tell ChatGPT here to do this for me. Write a Boolean search using the university names like this: MIT or what do we have? Stanford or Carnegie Mellon. Or what else was there? Caltech, etc. Write a long string. See what it's doing? Now I can copy it exactly, and I can use it on LinkedIn. So it's a long string. I'll go to Recruiter, and I can put this right here. Now I have only people who graduated from top schools. Same things. Same thing. I can give me a list of companies that do what? Something that work on health care software. Question. Focus on can you actually source for candidates' names with certain skill sets? Focus on executive life benefits. So, okay, here's the list of companies. Just as well, I can create an OR string, go to LinkedIn, put it into the company field, and execute. I do it all the time. It can be a list of associations. It can be a list of events, a list of companies, a list of job titles, of skills, first names of women for diversity and so forth. Can it actually source for candidates' names? Now, the answer to that is ChatGPT ends in 2021. You don't want candidates from 2021. Another thing is it's not as strong yet. So it can pretend that it would do that, but you need to check all of its output. Okay, so what are find linked LinkedIn profiles of who are these people? People working with executive life benefits. We're at the end of our time. I will be wrapping it up soon. I want to stay for your questions, and all of it is recorded if you have to run. Benefits. Now, this is not chat yet. This is just search engine. For chat, we have to switch here. See, it wouldn't do it. In some cases, it would give it some more tight instructions, and it would do better. What do you mean ChatGPT ends in 2021? ChatGPT does not have information beyond 2021. So how is it useful then? We have just seen a lot of applications. It generated a list of companies, a list of job titles, a list of skills, locations, and so forth. It can tell us about terminology, about the industry you're searching in, how to conduct an interview, a lot of things. If you want current information, you just don't go to ChatGPT, you go to Bing, for example, or Google Bard. They have access to the web. Okay. All right, folks, I'm happy to get more of your questions and feedback. I will be stopping the recording right now. Thank you so much for coming. You will get the material soon in a few hours. And don't forget about the month of support so we can have a dialogue over email about things that matter to you. Thanks again. So I have stopped the recording, and I'm happy to answer any other questions. Okay, I don't see questions now, so I'll be closing the webinar. Thank you so much for coming, and happy sourcing.